600 years old, 240 pages, every letter written in a script that exists nowhere else on Earth. No codebreaker, no linguist, no supercomputer has ever read a single word of it. It sits today in a climate-controlled vault at Yale University, and it remains, by any honest measure, the most mysterious book ever made. In 1967, a man named John Tiltman sat down with this book. Tiltman was one of the finest codebreakers Britain ever produced. He had cracked ciphers that helped win a world war. He studied these pages for years, and his final verdict was just 4 words long. He called it the most mysterious manuscript in the world. He never broke it. No one has. This is a story about failure. Not one failure, but a chain of them, stretching across 6 centuries. The greatest minds in cryptography, in linguistics, and now in artificial intelligence, have each walked up to this book, certain they would be the one to crack it. And every single one of them has walked away beaten. To understand why, we have to go back to the beginning. The year is 1912. A Polish book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich is combing through a collection of old volumes in Italy. Voynich has handled thousands of rare books. He knows spines and bindings the way a jeweler knows stones. And then he opens one particular codex and stops. He's looking at pages unlike anything he has ever seen in his life. He had bought it, along with a chest of other manuscripts, from Jesuit priests selling off a hidden library in secret. For decades afterward, the story placed the sale at the Villa Mondragone near Rome. Recent research quietly questions even that detail. The truth is, we are not entirely certain where the book was found. The mystery begins before the first page is even turned. But the book was already old when Voynich found it. Tucked inside was a letter from 1665, written by a scholar in Prague to a famous Jesuit polymath. It claimed the manuscript had once belonged to Rudolph II, Holy Roman Emperor, a collector of the occult. Rudolph, the letter said, paid 600 gold ducats for it. A fortune for a book no one could read. For centuries, people guessed the book was medieval, or a Renaissance forgery, or the work of some famous genius. Then, in 2009, scientists finally settled one question. They cut tiny samples from 4 pages and ran radiocarbon dating at the University of Arizona. The vellum they found came from an animal that died between 1404 and 1438. The book is real, and it is genuinely 600 years old. So the parchment is authentic 15th century calfskin. That much is settled, but everything written and drawn upon it is not. Because the moment you open the Voynich manuscript, you leave the known world entirely. Its 240 surviving pages are divided into sections, and each one is stranger than the last. Let's turn the pages together. The largest section is botanical, over 100 pages of plants, painted in soft greens and browns, with roots and leaves and delicate flowers. It looks like a medieval herbal, a gardener's guide, except that not one of these plants exists. Botanists have studied them for a century. They match nothing that grows on this planet. Impossible roots, leaves that belong to no known species. Turn further, and the plants give way to the stars, circular astronomical charts, suns and moons with human faces, a full sequence of zodiac symbols, ringed by dozens of tiny naked women, each holding a star, each drawn with unnerving care. It is a cosmology, a map of the heavens, but a heaven organized by rules that no astronomer, ancient or modern, has ever been able to name. And then comes the strangest section of all. Scholars call it the balneological pages. Dozens of small nude women bathing together in pools of green liquid, connected by an elaborate network of pipes and tubes and channels that snake across the page like plumbing, or like veins. No one knows what it depicts. A medical treatise, a vision of the body, or something we have no word for. There are more sections still. Vast circular diagrams that fold out into panoramas of castles and stars. Pages of disembodied plant parts beside rows of apothecary jars, as if from a pharmacy. And at the end, dense columns of text, each short paragraph marked with a single star, like recipes or spells. And all of it, every section, written in the same impossible script. That script is the heart of the mystery. Scholars call it Voynichese. It flows left to right in a confident, practiced hand. No crossings out, no hesitations, no corrections. Whoever wrote it fluently, as if it were their native tongue. And it is built from a small alphabet, roughly 20 to 25 distinct characters, that appears nowhere else in the recorded history of human writing. Here is what makes it maddening. When you run the text through statistical analysis, it behaves like a real language. The words follow Zipf's law, the same frequency pattern found in English, Latin, and Chinese. Common words repeat, rare words scatter, exactly as they should. If this were random gibberish, it should not do that. And yet, no meaning has ever come out the other side. But the text also does things no real language does. Its entropy is strangely low, meaning it is too predictable, too repetitive. The same word can appear 3 times in a row. Word lengths cluster tightly. Certain characters only ever appear at the start of a word, others only at the end. It is a language, and it is not a language. It obeys the rules, and it breaks them. In the 1970s, a codebreaker named Prescott Currier noticed something else. The book was not written in one hand, but 2. He identified 2 distinct statistical systems within the text and labeled them simply Language A and Language B. 2 different scribes, perhaps, or 2 dialects of whatever this is. The manuscript was not just unreadable, it was unreadable in 2 ways at once. So the codebreakers came for it, one after another. The first great obsession belonged to William Newbold, a respected philosopher, who in the 1920s announced he had cracked it. He believed tiny marks inside each letter held a hidden message from the medieval genius Roger Bacon. The world believed him. Then another scholar showed the marks were nothing but cracks in the ink, a mirage. Then came the most formidable mind of all, William Friedman, the founding father of American cryptology, the man whose team shattered Japan's purple cipher in the Second World War. If anyone alive could read the unreadable, it was him. Friedman worked on the Voynich, on and off, for more than 30 years. He assembled study groups. He fed it every technique he knew, and it defeated him utterly. Friedman never published a solution because he never found one. But near the end of his life, he hid his only conclusion inside an anagram, a coded sentence for future scholars to unscramble. When they finally did, it read, "The Voynich was an early attempt to build an artificial language, invented from scratch." It was Friedman's best guess, and even he offered it as a guess, not a proof. He was not working alone. His wife, Elizabeth Friedman, was herself a legendary codebreaker who had smashed the ciphers of prohibition smugglers. She too turned her mind to the Voynich. And in 1962, she wrote about it in the Washington Post, calling it still an enigma. 2 of the sharpest cryptographic minds of the century married to each other and to this problem, both defeated. By the 1950s, the effort had become almost institutional. An informal team of analysts from America's National Security Agency, the nation's most secret code-breaking organization, took their own crack at it, quietly, in their spare hours. The same people who read the encrypted traffic of foreign governments, the same people who guarded the deepest secrets of the Cold War. They could not read one sentence of a 600-year-old book. And here is the thing about a mystery like this. It does not stay quiet. Every few years, someone announces that they have finally solved it. The headlines blaze. The book is cracked at last. And then, almost every time, the solution collapses under examination. Let me show you the modern attempts, because they follow a pattern, and the pattern is telling. In 2018, researchers using artificial intelligence announced the language was probably encoded Hebrew and ran it through Google Translate to prove it. Medieval scholars winced. In 2019, a Bristol academic declared it a lost Proto-Romance language and named a solution. Experts pointed out that his method let him read almost anything into anything. His own university quietly withdrew the press release. There have been others. A claim that it is phonetic Old Turkish, rejected by the journal it was submitted to. A claim it is a form of ancient Hebrew shorthand. A claim it is Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs. Each announcement arrives with total confidence. Each one reads a few words, then stalls. None has ever produced a coherent, verifiable translation of a single full page. Not one. Why do they all fail the same way? Because the Voynich sets a cruel trap. It has just enough structure that a determined mind can always find a pattern. Force a key onto the text, and a few words seem to fit. That feels like a breakthrough, but a real solution has to work across all 240 pages with grammar, and there, every time, it falls apart. Which leads to the most unsettling possibility of all. What if there is nothing to read? In 2003, a researcher named Gordon Rugg showed that you could generate Voynich-like text using a simple 16th century tool, a grill with cut-out holes, laid over tables of syllables. Slide it around, copy the letters it reveals, and you produce fluent-looking nonsense. Nonsense that mimics a real language, an elaborate, beautiful hoax. If it is a hoax, it would be an audacious one. Someone would have filled 240 pages of expensive calfskin with meaningless symbols and hundreds of original illustrations, purely to deceive a buyer, perhaps the wealthy Emperor Rudolph himself. 600 gold ducats for a book of elegant lies. It is possible. Forgery is as old as value, but not everyone is convinced. Because the statistics push back. The deep structure of the Voynich, the way its words connect and repeat and obey Zipf's law, is subtle and consistent across the whole book. Critics argue that faking that, by hand, across two languages, without any modern grasp of linguistics, would be harder than inventing a real writing system. The hoax theory has to explain the thing that makes the book feel alive. So we are left with 3 doors and no key to any of them. Door 1. It is a real language or code, and we are simply not clever enough yet. Door 2. It is an invented language, meaningful to its creator, and now lost with them. Door 3. It means nothing at all. A masterpiece of deception. After 600 years, we cannot say which door is real. And now the newest generation has arrived. Machine learning, neural networks, systems that translate 100 languages in a heartbeat and beat grandmasters at their own games. They have been turned loose on the Voynich too. They can measure its patterns with a precision no human could match. They can tell you the text is structured. What they cannot tell you is what a single word means. Think about what that means for a moment. Every other historical script, from Egyptian hieroglyphs to Linear B, eventually fell. A key was found, a bilingual stone, a patient scholar. The wall came down. The Voynich is the great exception, the one message from the past that has met every tool humanity ever built to read it, and answered all of them with the same silence. Today, the manuscript rests at Yale University, catalogued with the plain designation Voynich MS 408. You can view every page online for free in astonishing detail. Millions have. Anyone can now stare at the same script that broke William Friedman. The tools have never been more powerful, the access never greater, and the book has never been closer to being solved. Which is to say, not at all. So it waits, 600 years old, 240 pages, written fluently, confidently, by someone who is long dead, in a language that may never have existed anywhere but inside their own mind. Every letter is a question, every page an unanswered one. And somewhere in that vault at Yale, the most mysterious book on earth is still saying something. We just have no idea what.